Peter at Petrosyan, back again. This time we are talking about MMA fights, talking about UFC, Jack Hermansson versus Joe Pyfer. For UFC this weekend, this is what's called the MMA Precap, Petrosyan predictions. We'll figure it out. But for now, that is what it is. That's what it's called, and I look forward to doing this. I was going to have a guest and other MMA fan, Xavier Rake. He's also a fellow comedian, also has trained before, has fought in the octagon, but he's out with the clap. So, thoughts and prayers. THOT thought. So, yep, thoughts and prayers for him. Hope he gets better. He'll come on next time, or another time actually. I got somebody already booked up for UFC 298, but we need to get into this sexy fucking fight night card. This is a really good card. Last week's card, not as good. Not as good. Gonna be real. Didn't want to do one for that. I was gonna start on that one, but I was like, I kind of saw it was lackluster, and it turned out to be that. Not even too bad. I think it was just a thing of sometimes just the matches, the style clashes cancel out on each other, and that's basically what happened. For casuals, it was boring, but for other people, they do realize it was a chess match. Not sure if I won any of those. I did put a parlay bet on one of them. Oh, you know what fucked me over is that as that guy. That is that guy who's 17-0, the Charles Johnson guy who lost 3 in a row. He was on his way out, and that fucker came back and actually decisioned him. Like, how can you just mess up my parlay? But that's what you do when you mess up parlays. It's always that one that you never think is going to get you. So, yeah, I had Molly McCann. I had the African homie. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, had him. Had Molly McCann, had all those peoples, and yeah, Roman, and didn't work out. So let's get into this week's card. There we go. There we go. Now let's zoom in. Let's get sexy, and let's get into it. So bottom to the top. These fights coming from here on. Do one more little zoom in, so more visually attractive. Yep, so coming in from here, starting at Trevin Giles, who we've seen in the UFC, versus Carlos Prates. Man, you got to see this guy, Carlos Prates. This guy is amazing. He has been in Muay Thai. He had, I think the guy he faced, he was 9-7. I believe Carlos Prates was 64-6 in Muay Thai. For the guy, obviously, just by knowing that. But this guy is an amazing striker. Let's look into his record. So, as you can see here, I mean, he hasn't really faced many game opponents, but he has just put on a clinic. He was in one FC, one Warrior, which I think is like a preemptive series. Loss. Yep, kind of in the early days, but obviously he's on a streak. And the odds makers have him as a favorite, rightly so. Let's see, let's go to him. Yep, so minus 260. Be a pretty heavy upset. Especially when somebody is already in the UFC and they have a guy who's coming in as the favorite. That says a lot. If you don't know, now you know. But that is something always to watch for, is you go, wow, why is this guy a favorite coming into this when they don't know him? When no one really knows him. But the odd makers do. They've seen his stuff, and the computers, I think, are going to be right in this case. Trevin Giles, he is a game opponent. He is good. Let's look at his record. But, he's just on a bit of a skid. He's faced some game opponents. He did beat Roman Dolidez. I want to make sure I don't butcher that. Get the fuck out of here, guys. And Yeah. Yeah, so he's faced some game opponents. He's had some good fights, but he seems to come up short when it comes to some of the more high-end contenders. Yeah, and, just by looking at that, the homie here is on the come up where, I think Trevin Giles, whether either if he switches camps or he does something spectacular, he won't really have the tools to face Carlos Prates' his pedigree, his style, the advantages he has on the feet, and Trevin Giles does not have what it takes to exactly utilize his ground game, which he doesn't really have. Doesn't have too much of one. He's good. Obviously, he's in the UFC, but doesn't have one that's going to make the decision there. So I'm going Carlos Prates. Here we have Rodolfo Vieira versus Armen Petrosyan. In this one, I am going Armen. Oh, okay, looks like it's the main prelim for Trevin Giles, but either way. So yeah, starting the main card, we have Armen Petrosyan versus Rodolfo Vieira. Here's what's decided this one for me is you look at Rodolfo Vieira, and he's a 3rd or 4th degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. And the crazy thing I noticed with this is that he still gets submitted. And I mean, granted, there's mistakes that happen, but at the same time, when you're in the UFC and you have a 3rd degree black belt, like, that shouldn't happen. Like, there's people like Ronnie Yaya, where there's not a chance in hell that you are going to submit him. There's none. Zero chance. He's just so groomed to the ground game. But with Rodolfo Vieira, he has these slip-ups where he is getting submitted. And let's see, I think that's a lot of this. Okay, yep, you got those lists. Jiu-jitsu, pedigree, yeah, so you got those. Got some of those wins from back in the day. And then here's his MMA fighting career. And yeah, he's put on some good wins. I think I was watching this one, Dustin Stoltzfus, and it was a great comeback. But he fought hard to get that one. He fought really, really hard. And for somebody who is that much of a jiu-jitsu practitioner, it really should have been finished quicker, in my opinion. He's pretty good on the feet, actually. For a 3rd degree black belt, he's actually does have some striking to his game, but it doesn't seem like much that will do much for Armen Petrosyan. So let's look at Armen Petrosyan. I don't think he's related to what's his name? God, come on. The Petrosyan guy. The Petrosyan who's in kickboxing. Shoot. I don't want to look him up yet. But yeah, so let's look at him. He has beaten Gregory Rodrigues, RoboCop, which is, that's big for me. I'm a big fan. We'll talk about him in a sec. And when you watch his fighting style, he's very aggressive. He does go forward. He is he is an action fighter despite his decisions. But he's a really interesting fighter. And I just think it's more about, Rodolfo not showing up than Armen Petrosyan showing in, being able to, he's going to take advantage of his weaknesses. And I don't see this having any sort of issue with ground game. Let's see, yep, so foundational style Muay Thai, very action fighter. If there is some way that Rodolfo is able to just keep it to the ground and destroy any chance of stand-up fighting happening, I don't see, it's Armen Petrosyan all day. Michael Johnson, Darius Flowers. This was an interesting one that I saw. I looked up Darius Flowers. Obviously, I know Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson is kind of on his way out. Big respect to him. 37. He's had his time. You know, he has had his time. And as you can see, he's had a big skid of fights. So, you know, just leading up to this, I mean, he did beat the best guy in the world, you know, Artem Lobov, you know, the GOAT, right? So that should be enough there. What does that mean? Oh, scale. Maybe somebody missed weight. He might have missed weight. Yeah, so, yeah, he's kind of on the way out. The people he's beat, he should have beat, and even the people he lost to. Jamie Malarkey is kind of a stud. Don't put that against him. Vieira, you know, that was one that kind of let you know that his clock's been kind of cleaned a few too many times. But Darrius Flowers, sorry, man, not impressive. I can't show any of the fights that are copyrighted, but if you go and look him up, it just really isn't much that is going to put up an argument for him winning against him. Michael Johnson does have the experience. It would be, you know, it's like anything could happen, but at the same time, I really was not impressed with Darrius Flowers in his come up to winning. And he has a shoulder injury from Slam, so he got into UFC via injury. He did good in LFA, which is obviously the stepping stones into the UFC. But yeah, I really lean on Michael Johnson, at least even edging a decision, because this is going to be his, you know, bright lights contender. And yeah, just, you know, his big strength is striking, but the striking isn't even that great. Just being honest. Like, it's a very low contender. And if we got to pick somebody, I'm saying things like I can beat him up, but I can't. He's in the UFC. So let's get that through, right? But as far as we're talking about the high pedigree of UFC, and I want this to be a platform, MMA Precap, to let you know who you need to bet with or against. And honestly, I would not bet on Darrius Flowers in this case. If it was anybody else, I would go against Michael Johnson, because Michael Johnson, like I said, is 100% on his way out. But yeah, in this case, I am going Michael Johnson. Probably decision if you want to try to get that leg on your parlay or get more bang for your buck. But I don't see. I don't see a good result happening in regards to this fight. Okay, so let's go back. So, got Michael Johnson, got Armen Petrosyan, got Carlos Prates. Let's go. Brad Tavares, Gregory Rodrigues. Man, how do you bet against Gregory Rodrigues in this way? He is such an action fighter. He is 100% on the come up. He's so game in all his fights. Brad Tavares is a journeyman. He's been a gatekeeper. He's been a step down from the gatekeeper. He's kind of a guy who's hanged out in the mix for a long time, hasn't sprung into the right occasion, and I don't see anything different happening. You know, I think the Gregory Rodrigues is a wrecking ball, and where Brad Tavares is good is on the feet, and I don't see any sort of difference being combated there. Let's look at his fight record. So, yep, Chris Weidman, lost to Rodrigues, the now champ. Shout out to him. And, yeah, he has some good wins. But again, it's we got to look far back to be like, hey, look at this. He had good time in the UFC. He's had a great time in the UFC. Look at that. Since 2010. 2010, this guy's been in the UFC. I guess this was the Ultimate Fighter. Yeah, so 2010. Seth Baczynski. That was actually probably one of the last good series of Ultimate Fighter, if you ask me, as far as like, you know, the draw. Now it's kind of just saturated in that way. But, yeah. So, yep, got to look for his kind of big losses. And as you see, it just kind of gets, you know, he's starting to dwindle a bit, get a little more loss streaks going. Yeah. Yeah, it's like he kind of loses to the people who are on the come up, and he gets the people that are in the mid-tier bracket. Yeah. I mean, so again, I mean, if we're really talking technical, you know, we got the striking abilities of Greg Rodrigues versus Brad Tavares. You know, you got to watch who has, you know, who does what. And Gregory Rodrigues is very explosive. Yeah, 36. So if this is the fight to win, this is his time. So he might be taking this very seriously, and that he might know what stakes are on the line. But yeah, in this case, I don't see that happening. I do not see that happening. I would definitely go, you know, you would definitely in that case, you would go, I could go decision. It could go decision. I was going to say it could be, yeah, it could be a guaranteed finish, but I won't put that on you. But we're going Greg Rodrigues outright. Ihor, Potieria, Robert, Bryczek. These guys don't have too much to look at online. But yeah, these two are just scrappers. This one, in this case, you can just put finish. It's going to be a finish. Both these people have the same style. They're both like little Yuri Petroskas who are game scrappers, both outside the U.S. And, I mean, they both have great footage to watch. I can't post it, obviously. But you have people who are on very good streaks. Let's look at Robert. Just two chiseled game people. Not really anybody that stands out as far as their resume goes. But look, I mean, just punches, TKO, unanimous TKO, just crazy. And then let's look at Ihor. Now he's on a bit of a loss streak. This one's kind of tough to choose. I actually kind of went with Ihor on this one, just for his experience. Because let's see if I see right. This is Robert's UFC debut, and there's always that thing with the guy who has been the limelight already. As far as the UFC lights, they always say it's, you know, it's a big change, and it really takes a true contender to get through those nerves. So in that case, I don't really see Robert taking the win, but I could be wrong. This is one that's a complete toss-up. Take this for your own judgment. Go watch footage. Decide for yourself. They're both scrappers, and you know, even for me, like, you know, his win in the UFC was he won the contender, had a good contender match, but his, you know, claim to fame is beating up a Shogun who was on his way out. For Shogun. Yeah, but I mean, God, obviously Carlos Ulberg. Well, not two. Yeah, Carlos. He's a scrapper. There's no surprise that he obviously took him down. Left hook, ground strikes. Yeah, I mean, he's on the come up, super come up. But yeah, really giving him some fresh blood with Robert Bryczek, and yeah, it's gonna be a scrap. That's for sure. Just put finish. If you don't know who to do, finish. I'm going Ihor. I think the the limelight that he already has experience. He's lost. He has a newcomer coming in. I think he'll take advantage of that. But again, it can go either way. Could totally go either way. That one, if you're betting, put finish, guarantee finish. Let's see what they have for the the odds. What do the odd makers say? Oh, yeah, they have him as an underdog. Ihor as an underdog. So, yeah, they could be saying that doesn't matter. We saw his footage and he's killer. But it's against people that have no name. And while getting beaten by some big names, I do think that's an advantage, surprisingly. You know, dude, if you've bet, you know that these odds don't really mean anything, because anything can happen on any given night. So that's this kind of narrative I'm following. And as we get to other fights, you'll see what I'm talking about there. So I'm going to Ihor. And it's smart to put that as a middle card because they know it's about to be fireworks. It's going to be fireworks. Yeah. So let's go to the co-main event. Dan Ige, Andre Fili. Dan Ige on this one is the more well-rounded fighter. Andre Fili, one of my favorite to watch. One of my favorites to watch. He is always bringing the action, but sometimes he lets that get to him. Let's look at his record. So yeah, he has a good skid of losses. He leaves it all out there. That's what he is. He's a fans fighter. He fights for the fans, man. He is always scrapping. He's always looking for, the most action in fights. He always pushes the pace, but you can see when he faces top tier opponents, he comes up short. If we're just looking at the stats in general. Dan Ige, on the other hand, is a very well-rounded fighter. Has pretty much the whole game involved. Knockout submissions. He's got it all. Yeah, went on a bad skid. Oh, the Korean Zombie, man. Korean Zombie, that was a great, Korean Zombie's last good fight was amazing. So, yeah, I see this going probably decision, most likely. I think Dan's going to use his ground game, his wrestling, his expertise as far as just the overall game, pushing the pace, octagon control. I think he's going to be using that very well against Andre Fili, knowing what kind of fighter he is. You know what you're getting when you get Andre Fili. You train for a scrap, a war, but you also train to neutralize his game. And that is something that Dan Ige has the fight IQ to do. Andre Fili, I think he's going to lose, probably by decision. I don't really see a knockout happening. So if you want to do both, you can. Don't blame me if it's wrong. But, yeah, I just kind of see it. I see it that way. Yeah, so. Okay, so let's get to the main event. The main event, baby. Jack Hermansson versus Joe Pyfer. So, Jack Hermansson, obviously, is a much more veteran fighter. We all know who he's fought. Joe Pyfer has really good momentum behind him. Very good momentum. Who he's faced, he has not faced many known opponents. Okay? So, he's got a lot of hype behind him. Complete lot of hype. But has not faced an opponent like Jack Hermansson, who was a grinder, as you've seen before. I don't think it's going to, I think fans of Joe Pyfer are going to be thinking it's a one-punch knockout, and that's what he'd be hoping on. But you don't get that out of him, You do not get that out of him. You have to wear him down to break him. And we just haven't seen that in Joe Pyfer. I like Pfeiffer. I want to say Pyfer for some reason. But, yeah, Joe Pyfer. Pyfer. I just said it fucking again. Yeah. He just doesn't have the resume. Jack has faced everybody. He has faced everybody in the mix. You know, he's such a gamer. He has the full experience. He has the full pedigree as far as the standing up game, the grappling game. He has it all. So, I am actually, as you can tell, leaning towards Jack Hermansson, especially when it's like an underdog like this. He's a super underdog. I think this could be the loss that gets Joe Pyfer to the next stage. I don't see, with who he's faced, he has faced nobody like Jack Hermansson. And so for that reason, I'm going for Jack. But could be wrong. I could be wrong. I wouldn't be surprised. If that's one that happens, I will not shed a tear. I'll say that's good. He deserves it, and now he's on the come up. This will be a test fight for Joe Pyfer. We will see what happens, but for the moment, I don't see much difference. I don't see where you look at his fighters, you go, oh, he is just like Jack Hermansson. He will do it to him. I don't see it. Don't see it happening. So yeah, for me, there's you could spend 20 minutes on each fight. I like to kind of gloss over them and really just kind of get the bones of it, because there's so much you can talk about with each person and how they fight. Joe Pyfer is obviously very aggressive. Just look at who he's faced. Like it's like, can you look at who Jack Hermansson's fought and go, he has not faced a fighter like him? No. Look at who he's faced. Look at who he's faced. His losses are just, Sean Strickland, close decision. Roman Dolidez, lost to him just recently. Beat Chris Curtis. Edmund, beat Edmund Shabazian. Lost to Marvin Vittori, who's a grinder. Basically, Jack and Marvin are one and the same. Marvin a little more boring, to be honest. Heel hooking Kelvin. That was crazy. That's so crazy just to get that. See, he can just pull the tricks out of nowhere, too. And then he has, Jakari and people below that. He can hang. He can hang with all of them. I just think he's more of a gamer. He's more of a veteran. He's not really on his way out. He's 35, so he's preemptively getting there. But I don't think, just in my opinion, I don't think he's there yet. So, that's the breakdown, man. That's the breakdown. That's how I think it's going to go. That's how I think this will be. Let's look at my final stats. Yep. So there you have it. These are my picks. This one I feel like I could be wrong on. Actually, just after looking at the odds. But again, odds don't mean shit. Odds really don't mean shit. It's all hype. It's all who knows. And anything can happen. So what I'd like to do on this podcast is I will report back on Sunday and eat my words how wrong I am. Oh, one more thing. For Jack Hermansson, Joe Pyfer, I think it's going to be a decision, no matter who. So if you're not sure either, go decision. I think that's a pretty safe bet to put there. Yeah. So, yeah, those are my picks. Hope you enjoyed it. This is fun. I like doing it. Shout out to Xavier. We'll do one next time. But next week I'm going to have another guy on. We're going to break down UFC 298 and It is going to be a show, man. UFC 298. It's going to be crazy. We can talk about that next week. I'll have that. I'll try to put these up on Thursdays. And yeah, I think that's what it is for now. So thanks for tuning in. See you next time. This has been the MMA Precap. Peter at Petrosyan. Follow me on Instagram. Follow the YouTube channel. This will be posted. And let's get it, man. Let's make some money, man. Let's make some money this year. Let's make some betting money. Some of that dirty degenerate money. All right? Let's do it, man. Let's beat the house. Let's beat the house this year. All right? That should be the motto. Let's beat the house together. Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, this has been fun. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time.